Welcome back to another episode of Whiskey and Wine, where we dive into the world of whiskey and wine and try to make it more approachable for more people. Let's go. I really need to get better at consistently doing that intro, but it is what it is. Today we are talking about Islay whiskey, but before we dive into that, I need to get myself a glass of it because I love this stuff. So stand by. I think we're going to enjoy some nice Lafroy 10 today. So we're not going to be diving into all of the distilleries and their offerings and all of this stuff when it comes to Islay whiskey. We are just going to be doing a very high-level overview of what you can expect and kind of what you can look for to figure out what type of whiskey you're going to like from Islay. So if you've never heard of Islay whiskey, this is going to be a Scotch. And to be a Scotch, there are going to be some specific rules that you need to actually follow. Yes, just like bourbon or just like, I said just like Scotch, just like bourbon or just like Canadian whiskey, just like Irish whiskey, there are going to be specific rules that you have to follow in order to call yourself a Scotch. Now, those rules are going to be pretty strict, really, when it comes down to it, but they do have a little bit more room to play because they are allowed to use, oof, that was loud, second fill barrels, and they're also allowed to use caramel coloring. But I'm going to pop the rules up so you guys can just see them as I read through them. So, to be a Scotch, you have to follow these rules. It must be made from water, cereal grains, and yeast. You are allowed to use natural, plain caramel coloring. Has to be made from cereal grains only. Aged in an oak cask no larger than 700 liters, aged for at least 3 years in Scotland, cannot be distilled over 94.8% alcohol, must have the characteristics of whiskey, and bottled above 40%. If you follow those rules, you can call yourself a Scotch. Now, to be an Islay Scotch, you have to be from the island of Islay, which just makes me laugh because Islay literally means island. So it's the island of Ireland. I love languages. It's always a fun time. But when it comes to Islay whiskey, there is going to be this really big characteristic that most people are going to know, and that is peat. Islay whiskey is known for just being extremely peaty. Now, what is peat? What is a peated whiskey? What is a peaty whiskey? What does it taste like? Peat is just going to be decomposing, naturally found plant matter, basically. And you're only going to find it in like bogs in Ireland, Scotland. Dear goodness, today has been a day for words. But what you do is you take that, and when you are malting your grains, or basically you have your grains and you're going to put some water on it so it starts to want to germinate, so it cracks itself open, you have to dry it out to stop the germination process, and that's usually done by heating it up in a kiln. But one of the things you can do is use a peat smoke, or use peat to do that, and you are going to get this really smoky flavor from it. And that's what people are going to refer to as something being peated. Now, when it comes to having something peated, you're going to have different levels of it, or the ppm, parts per million. Typically, you're going to find things, I believe it's like 20 to 50 ppm. Yeah, 20 to 50, just double check my notes. 20 to 50 ppm, but it can really range anywhere from 0 to upwards of 300. But if you find something around that 300, it's probably this guy, Octomore. And it's really interesting when you actually drink that because it's so peated that it doesn't taste quite as peated as this guy does. But if you also notice, I said it could be 0. So there are going to be some unpeated Islay whiskeys out there. So I would pay attention to that. An example of that, I believe, is like the classic Lottie coming from Brooklotic. That is not going to be a peated whiskey, or if it is, it's very, very lightly peated and you barely notice. This doesn't mean that all peated whiskeys are going to come from Islay. There are going to be peated whiskeys coming from all over Scotland, and just really depends on how peated it is going to dictate if you're going to like it or not. There are also going to be different sources of peat, and some are going to taste a little bit different, but unless you want to get super nerdy about it, it doesn't matter that much. So let's talk about some example bottles that you can check out if you want to get into Islay whiskey. So there's going to be a couple, well, there are going to be a lot of different distilleries, but I'm just going to give you 4 different distilleries that you can look into. Like I said before, Brooklotic is going to produce a lot of not super heavily peated ones, so it's a good entry point. But then they're also going to have their Octomore. I think it's coming from them. If not, I'm sorry that I'm giving you wrong information. You're going to have something like Lagavulin, there's Lafroig. That's what I'm sipping on, which this guy is delightful. It's also going to be Ardbeg. And some of the Ardbeg ones are insanely peated. I think they just came out with something that's supposed to be like their most peated one yet, which is like the peatiest Scotch in the world. I'm really curious what the ppm is going to be on that guy. Now, if you're new to the world of Scotch in general, and you've had maybe some bourbons, some rye, some Canadian whiskeys, or maybe even some just Irish whiskeys or Japanese whiskeys, know that most Scotches are going to be much lighter than American whiskey. So Canadian whiskey, ryes, and bourbons. It's going to be much lighter because it's a lot further north, and just with how they have to age everything, it's not going to basically turn a darker color super quickly. I mean, if you just look at that, this is like a straw color, but if this was a bourbon or if this was aged in the US for 10 years, it would be much, much darker. When it comes to Islay whiskey, like I said, a lot of it is peated, and peated can be very overwhelming for a lot of people. If you want to get into it, or say you buy a bottle to try it and you're like, this isn't it, I don't like this, I'd recommend using it in cocktails. So one of my all-time favorite cocktails, it's one of Heather's favorite cocktails, we make it all the time, is the penicillin. It's going to be honey, lemon, has Scotch in it, and it's also going to have something peated floated over the top typically, or you can mix it in, depends on what you want to do. Really good recipe. Check out Anders Ericsson penicillin. His recipe is absolutely amazing. And it's just a really nice, refreshing cocktail, and the smokiness makes it almost medicinal, but the ginger that you're going to get in there, that's what's going to make it the most medicinal. It's delicious. Definitely try it out. Even if you don't have a bottle of this, see if you can just go somewhere and have them make it for you. But I have been rambling long enough. I'm going to sip this and tell you just a couple thoughts that I have about this. So some people say that this is going to taste like Band-Aid or tire fire. I was talking to Heather about this the other day, and I realized that I wouldn't necessarily say tire fire for a lot of these. I would put this in the category of a day-old smoldering fire. You know, when you're camping and it rains and you have like that smoldering fire the next morning, this is what that kind of tastes like. It's like a wet, woody kind of flavor. Again, some people are going to think that's absolutely disgusting. Some people are like, that sounds amazing. I personally really enjoy it. Heather, she can't really sip on this neat, but like I said, if I make this in the penicillin, she loves it. One of the other really fun facts is just how we perceive taste. So I stated before, the ppms, this I believe is probably like 50 ppms, but I have the Octomore back there that is going to be much, much higher. But it's so high, it is undetectable. So you may taste it and you're like, okay, this doesn't taste super peaty. Put some water in it and it's going to absolutely knock you on your butt. It's all just because when your senses get overwhelmed, you don't taste things right away, or you don't experience the things right away. Think of when you touch touch a stove that is very hot, or anything that's really hot. Initially, it doesn't start burning because your senses are just absolutely overwhelmed, and then it will start to burn. Now, this is translatable, I guess you can say, to tasting as well. So if I have something that is extremely peated and I put it up against something like this one tastes more heavily peated than that one does, but that one technically has a higher ppm. So just because something is a higher ppm doesn't mean it's going to taste super peated. You do have to taste it to kind of figure it out. A lot of them you can honestly just smell and you'll figure it out. So with all that being said, I would highly recommend at least trying a Islay whiskey, even if it's not something peated, just so you can experience what they have to offer. I think they have something honestly for everyone. It might be something in a cocktail, might be something that you pour neat, but whatever it is, I just recommend you give it a shot. Cheers guys, have a good one.